Commerce and West Seattle.
Hi, Laura Radford. I'm the Executive Director of the West Seattle Junction Association and also a resident.
Peter?
Peter Goldman, Alki resident for 32 years, environmental lawyer.
Wonderful. And as a staff here for SDOT, we have Heather Marks, Megan Shepard, anyone else? And Lori. Okay, so I think moving forward, so we take a good advantage of the 20 minutes that we have left. Megan, would you mind taking some notes, because I don't want to waste any time asking who will be able to do that since we don't have a report back. I would love to hear from folks if we can embark in a conversation and either reconnect with Seattle, anything new that you learn or any happiness, concern that you would like to bring up that we should address. The low bridge access policy that it was brought up by Heather, as well as the cost benefit analysis criteria. And what mostly I'm looking for is not having right now all the answers that we may have, or we need to process and probably talk to our constituents more about it. But what are some of your high level concerns or questions that you have?
I'll chime in on the Reconnect West Seattle. I think those neighborhood maps were great, but the prioritization process was really tricky with some of those maps. And I know that the timeline is short, but if in future, or if we're able to extend that, having those maps be interactive so you can cross-reference and locate where those projects are, I think would be super helpful. I was encouraged in terms of the happiness, encouraged by the response rate. That's great. And then I just had a question on the cost benefit analysis in terms of the equity piece, how we're going to engage with underrepresented communities to hear folks' input, or is that meant to just have us prioritizing those aspects versus the other aspects? I'm still a little bit unclear on that, but those are my comments and questions. Thanks.
Great questions, David. Thank you. So we're not going to be answering, and instead just hear from each other and then hopefully address some of these.
Hi, this is Ken. Question for Heather. I like, of course, a lot of this stuff. You guys have put a lot of time into it, but the expanded access, maritime, the employer shuttles, and so on. I was curious, could you elaborate on the ILWU? I understand access on and off of Harbor Island, but I wonder a little bit, because this is not meant for commuters, I felt like there was more to the story as you brought that up, Heather.
Thank you, Ken. Anyone else? And as I said, Heather will be perhaps trying to address in the last minutes. So we're gathering feedback right now that she could put together.
Paulina, this is Peter Goldman. Can I go? I'm just not.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we get this cost benefit analysis right. And I think that Heather and Sam have clarified, and also Matt have clarified that there's still an open mind. If CBA really does assume apples to apples and oranges to oranges, and honestly, putting a tunnel underneath the existing bridge is not an apples to apples comparison. And ITT would only practically be able to go north of the lower bridge. So it's not a fair comparison to locate a tunnel underneath the existing bridge footprint. And one thing that the CBA also doesn't do, the two options options 4 and 5 also don't mention light rail. And so, so I think that really, to be apples and apples, we have to be consistent about the presence of light rail. So I do understand that there are going to be some great issues I said East Marginal, I meant West Marginal and Del Ridge, and getting there from the east. And with climate change, our water levels are going to go up, and who knows what's going to happen. But I just think that there's enough uncertainty that we should not assume that any tunnel would have to go underneath the existing bridge. We should keep an open mind at this point, before we get much further, to allow for an ITT north of the low bridge. Thank you.
Go ahead, Deb. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Just want to share that I've been hearing folks are taking this survey, the West Seattle Outreach survey, and they're confused when they take it. It doesn't always relate to their particular situation, so they're kind of having to make the best of that survey, which is neither here nor there, but it's not everybody's the same, and that's the beauty of West Seattle. I also just want to say that I'm in contact with some communities who aren't being acknowledged within the Reconnect West Seattle larger picture, and I'm trying to help them hook up with SDOT and learn all about Vision Zero or other opportunities for their community. So thanks to SDOT for helping with that work right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else? John, Joe, Todd?
I have a hand raised. There's Dan Austin. I just want to go with what Mr. Goldman said. Really, the ITT, I'm not sure why SDOT put a deep bore graphic up under the footings when I hadn't heard anything about that yet, and the ITT is not listed on there as one of the options. I want clarity that that option is a bucket option for tunnels, so all style of tunnels is in there. I've already had 6 emails and about 7 text messages sent to me from folks who are big ITT proponents, feeling the cards are already again stacked against, which is a common thing that's being put out there, that it's not being taken seriously. And I'm for the best solution, but I would like to see more in-depth on the ITT and see this, if nothing else, communicated more effectively than throwing out a new style of tunnel last minute that none of us have heard about. So that's, yeah, I just want to back that up. I really would like us to look in depth at the ITT, or at least get answers on why it's not feasible from SDOT purview if that's the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and thanks for taking all those emails. Greg and I received the same average of 4 or 5, 6 emails regarding the same, so thanks. John?
Thank you, Paulina. Just speaking as a Georgetown rep, it's looking like we're down to a week to get responses in for the surveys. There are some issues that we're grappling with. One is, of course, is to really understand the implications of all the choices. We don't have a neighborhood that's filled with policy wonks on transportation, let alone engineers. So it's really hard to make those choices, especially when we don't know what the cost considerations are of each or what the broader impacts for mobility neighborhood-wide might be, versus an issue that might, impact a business or a residence directly. So we're still grappling with that. And then also, we had a very robust conversation going on with SDOT, leading into all of this, and we've been really appreciative of the feedback that we've been able to give them, and to what Heather and to some degree Colin have been able to give us. And we hope to continue those conversations around some specific issues and data sharing and so on and so forth, so that we can really hone in on what our particular needs are in the Georgetown community. So appreciate all that. And also just a shout out to Heather. If you need me to provide any explanation on the ILWU access to the lower bridge, I'm happy to fill in any remarks that you might need me to do. So appreciate that too.
Thanks, John.
Great. Did we get to hear from you all? I feel like Ken didn't go, or he did? No, he did.
I just wanted to ask.
Joe, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Sure. So I would just add a few things I haven't heard yet. I was really impressed with the cost benefit analysis criteria that SDOT has put so much work into. And I think that that's, while I'm sure that there's, you know, additional ways to ensure that those criteria are as inclusive of as many community concerns as possible. I just thought I was really impressed with that. And I think that there's been, you know, this is not an easy decision. And I think it's important that we have a really rigorous and analytical process to decide what's the best next step. And I'm just really encouraged to see that level of analysis. And it was helpful to me just to conceptualize what more of the options are. You know, and I understand some of the questions about the tunnel from, I think, Dan and Peter, make sure that that's the right option that's being analyzed, or maybe it's more than one option. But I think the other ideas related to shoring, relative to full repair, relative to full replacement, or just replacement of the superstructure, were really useful to me in wrapping my head around what the options are and what the timelines might be, and how each of those relates to sort of the long-term health of our community. So I feel like I've gotten a lot of useful new information out of today's meeting.
Thank you, Josh. Joe, Todd, would you like to have your end thoughts?
Thank you, Mitch. I have been getting a lot of questions from vendors. There was a little bit of discussion about the ability to get product and services into West Seattle. And so, you know, now that we're starting to move into phases where we're opening up a little bit more, some of the companies have been asking us what route they should get into the West Seattle with. They've got trucks, and so, you know, at this particular point, I haven't been able to give them any great indication. They've asked about whether or not they can take the lower bridge or not. We have reverted to doing a lot of our own self-distribution. We have a box truck because U.S. Food Service is having a difficult time committing to coming into West Seattle. So we've been moving product ourselves. And so just kind of want to get an idea, like if somebody crosses that bridge with a box truck, or is there going to be a way to apply license plate numbers or something like that to enable us to get stuff that we need. Also, I'd just like to say that I really thought this last meeting was super informative. I felt like the information that we got kind of reinforcing what our options are was great. And I would also like to throw my hat into that tunnel option as, you know, where is the best place to put that? How to connect, you know, to getting in and out of it, you know. So anyways, thank you.
Thanks, Todd. So I really would like Heather to comment, but before we go do that, what are you guys' feelings on how do we better accommodate the meaningful dialogue moving forward? Do you have any strong feelings in the next meetings? We have talked about dividing the groups and whether the bridge or the replacement versus traffic and pedestrian mitigation efforts for those of us who are interested in one or the other. Do we meet more often? Do we have extended time of the meeting so we can address everything? I would love to hear from you as we're deciding on what to best move forward with this. And if you have any even input on what should we do next?
I'll jump in. Okay, I'm fine with either more meetings or longer meetings, but I would love to see more content, more time to actually digest and discuss the content. So either one of those personally work for me. I do think we need more time to have interactions like we're having now. I really would agree with breaking out into more groups. So maybe bridge group, tunnel group, mitigation group, and even if I don't know if this falls under the purview, but economic development or something with how do we mitigate for also the business loss right now that's happening for the West Seattle business community. And I'm assuming what will end up impacting the port here with T5 as well. Some economic issues that'll come up with this, or if that's something we break out with OED. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. Anybody thinks differently? From what is proposed to have more meetings, longer meetings, and breakout sessions, and according to the topic?
I'm not going to dispute anything. I completely agree with Dan, but I do want to say that because there's such in-depth material that comes at us pretty late in the game. I mean, last night, some things even, day of, as much advance notice to get that material, I think is good. Or it's the sort of thing where we're going to get it at a meeting and we won't discuss it for a day or whatever. But getting the information cold doesn't really do us well to be able to be thoughtful about it. So just want to encourage some time to get the information reviewed in our lives. Thanks.
Thanks, Deb. And yes, we all agree, and we have received apologies from Bill for sending those as we were pushing for incorporating new slides. I think that was the delay, but completely understood. Yes, Peter.
Well, the cost benefit analysis just came to me as a citizen from SDOT as on email. And it just seems like we just had a chance to first discuss the cost benefit analysis, the framework for it. And literally on the same day, within an hour, it's out to the general public as this is our initial cut of the cost benefit analysis. What was the point of seeking our input on the CBA when it just goes right out to the public within an hour? Like, these are our conclusions. If we found some structural apples to apples, oranges to oranges issues, why would not SDOT have just kind of, taken a day, gone through those, thought about it a little bit, and maybe tweaked it a little bit rather than it just goes out to everybody? So honestly, I think that's a little disheartening to see the CBA go right out to the general public when we haven't even had a chance to provide some input to SDOT on that. I think the timing should be reconsidered on things like that.
Completely agree. And that, as we are community putting our faces in the task force, makes us look like we've been hiding information because we haven't get the chance to distribute these to our constituents. Anyone else before I Heather on to give it out to Heather?
So may I just make a gentle point about that?
Heather, just 1 second, because you will have the time to talk the last 4 minutes. Anyone else from the community task force and something different or new?
I'll just say personally, I prefer longer meetings to more meetings, but that's just very personal opinion, and I'm happy to go along with whatever the group decides.
Thank you, David.
If it's a longer meeting, you need to factor in water breaks or bio breaks. Just saying.
Totally. Okay, so thank you guys for your feedback. If anything additional come, the time is always short. Please fill out those surveys, feedback, reflection forms, because we use those a lot to be able to come to the meeting. So Heather, please, in the main points that you want to address or answer.
I want to make clear a couple of things. First of all, we know that as soon as we send that information to the task force, it is going to make its way to the public. And so we very purposefully time our media releases. I would love to give folks more time with that information. This is a program that's moving really, really fast. And one of the things that we hear the most from the community is that we're not going fast enough. And so I wish more than anything that this could be a much more deliberate, slow process, but that's just not where we are. I want to reassure everybody that yes, indeed, we are considering all kinds of tunnels. That was illustrative. I also want to say that if you consider that the maximum grade for a road in the city of Seattle is 6%, immersed tube tunnel would cut off access to Delridge. So you just have to make the line at 6% to see that. I'm not making a judgment about that, and we don't make a big deal about it because we want the community to have an opportunity to ponder it. But I just want everybody to be grounded in the engineering reality of what a tunnel would do in terms of the existing road system. What else? Nevertheless, we are moving on. All of those pictures that you saw today were illustrative and conceptual. So don't fall in love with any of them. I think that's something that I said. Oh, what else? Meg, is there anything else
There
I
was
should?
something under IDT, the tunnel.
Yes. No, I mean the tunnel. You got to have a 6% grade. So there's a problem connecting to existing streets. We aren't taking it off the table. It's still on the table. And in fact, even though it would be more appropriately placed in the type, size, and location study, we included it on purpose in the cost benefit analysis because we wanted to demonstrate to the community that we are taking it seriously. Is anything else? I'm sure there are things that I'm missing that I want to say. We really appreciate everybody taking time to do this, whether it's more meetings or longer meetings or more different kinds of meetings. And I want to just reinforce my availability if anybody wants to talk about this. My schedule's a nightmare, but I'm willing to make time to discuss. Because I want to make sure that everyone's really grounded in what we're talking about here. Because ultimately, the recommendation that we come out with as a city and even as a task force might not make everybody joyful, but I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to understand fully how we got to the recommendation that we eventually are going to make. Is that fair? Enough?
Yes, thank you, Heather. And it's 2:31. I do want to be respectful of your time. Thank you again for joining and this 30 minutes extension. And I look forward to hearing back from you. And same as Heather, our availability with Greg to be there for community. It's a priority for sure. So thank you, everyone. We won't be reconvening back to the group, but you will see more information on the reflection and next meeting on time, in a timely manner, hopefully.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.